What's up? This is Brian from Currents, and I'm going to give you a track-by-track of our new record, The Way It Ends. I'm going to give you some insights into the lyrics and to the recording process from my perspective, and I'm going to hopefully give you a better idea of the record and how I connect to the songs. So let's get into it. Never There is the intro track of the record. We initially didn't know what to do with it. It was more, do we make this a full song? Do we have it be an interlude? And we, after a little while, decided that it was the perfect opener for the record. It hit some emotional points really quickly that I think is important because the first few tracks are a little more single-oriented and they're not as introspective. So to have a more emotional track start the record felt perfect. Lyrically, Never There is a summation of the last 3-4 years of touring on and off, balancing being at home and then having to leave for tour constantly. Another cool thing about this song is that it reminds me of a previous song from the band's catalog called Life Lost. It was the title track of an EP that the band released before I was in the band. Now, I was a fan of Currents before I was actually in it, and so it's kind of cool to have my own take on that style and that sound. So A Flag to Wave is the first full track of the record, and there's a lot going on in this track, and I get really excited thinking about it and the potential of getting to play it live at some point and have that nice interaction with everybody. Kind of the meaning of this song is we're talking about self-discovery, we're talking about introducing ourselves to the world, and that's how we've been for the last 3 or 4 years, is we've been doing these tours and meeting new people and getting in touch with new bands and kind of just being steered in the right direction all this time to finally make our own stamp on the scene and make a name for ourselves. So that's what A Flag to Wave is really about at the heart of it, and it's just a really exciting track for me, and I look forward to playing it live one day. One of my favorite parts about this track is the chorus, just because we had Ryan Leitru work on the record. He was a producer, he helped write a few of the songs and fine-tune some lyrics and sections for us. And when I was writing the chorus for A Flag to Wave, he was the only person I was thinking of. And you can actually hear Ryan Leitru's voice in the background. He has a few harmonies and a few sections in the background of the chorus, which I think is really cool because he was just the first person I had in mind when I was writing that chorus. The third track on the record is called Poverty of Self. Now this track is a little heavier than anything that we're used to doing, but I think that's part of what makes it so exciting for us, is that you have that crazy breakdown at the end. You have a lot of these very heavy riffs and intricate drum parts. This is a track where Ryan Leitru really kind of helped us come together and figure out what we really wanted to say with the song. He was a huge help on this track, and some of my favorite sections are verse 2, the guillotine swings, and the end of the track, which is just this crazy open section of lows, which I think is a lot of fun. The next track on the record is called Monsters. Now, this is a big song for us. I'm really excited about it. It gives me personally these vibes of Withered, which is the first song that I was ever on in Currents, and it gives me that same energy, that same emotion, that same kind of grooviness, and it's one of my favorite songs. Something a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I'm very happy with the way that it turned out. I really love the groove in this song, the way that the instruments are kind of scaled back a bit, and it lends itself to more creative vocal patterns. That was a lot of fun for me to go in there and try to just do my thing and go with the rhythm of the songs and follow the drums. Some of the riffs on this song are also some of my favorite on the record. Lyrically, the song is about toxic relationships and not letting them get the better of you. You have to realize when people bring out the worst in you, and you have to adjust and try to find a way to amend that. Kill the Ache is the next track on the record, and where Monsters was out of my comfort zone, I feel like Kill the Ache is very different for Currents, and it's very intimate. There's a lot of very soft, emotional parts on this song, and to help us track those the right way, we enlisted the help of our friend Ricky Armelino, Now, he was there for the entire tracking of every line of vocals on The Way It Ends. He actually has some harmonies on the record too, and you can hear them in Kill the Ache. He helped us get those soft singing parts to come out really well and come out in the right way to have the tracks make sense. He helped me really emote those vocals in those sections, and we're very grateful for Ricky because his contributions were great. When I think about Kill the Ache, I think about the 2018 Never Say Die tour. We were with a lot of really talented bands. It was with Being as an Ocean, North Lane, Casey, Polar, and Thousand Below, and this band Alaska that we love. So when I think about Kill the Ache with the synths and the more emotional kind of delivery of the vocals and the more ambient nature of the track, it just kind of reminds me of all of those bands molded into one unified sound, and I always just think back to that tour every time I hear this song because it's kind of the way that mentally I summed up what was going on in that moment for me. The next track on the record is called Let Me Leave. Now, this is a track where I feel like a lot of our influences really came together on one track. Ryan wrote the intro lead, and it ended up kind of being the center of the song. Lyrically, it's about distancing yourself from people when maybe you really don't want to, but for whatever reason, maybe you have things going on in your mind or you're not in a good place. You feel like it's better for yourself to exit those relationships for a little while just to kind of save yourself and save other people seeing you not in the best place. We all like a lot of softer, more ambient music, and it was cool to kind of pursue that sound for Currents. I really felt in my element, and it normally wouldn't be in my comfort zone, but I felt really kind of at home on this one for some reason. Two of my favorite sections on this song are the screaming verse right before the last chorus and the end of the song, which is just this intricate riff that feels so open, and it does a great job of kind of exiting the track and opening us up to new things, and we start to get to the second half of the record. So after Let Me Leave, we move into a track called Origin. Now, I didn't know where I sat with this track for a little while as far as if it was one of my favorites or one of my least favorites. It was one of the last ones that was fully pieced together, but now that it's done and I've looked back at it for a while, I could see it being a sneaky favorite for a lot of people. The ending lyrics of this song are actually the last lyrics that were written for the record. They're the last ones that were finished. It was the last line, and it's kind of funny that it sums up the record in a way. I've kind of come to think of it as the heart of the record, mostly because the subject matter is so direct to the narrative that we chose. Moving on from Origin, we have a song called Split. If somebody asked me my favorite song on The Way It Ends, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna say Split, just because I have a really personal connection to the song. It didn't change much from pre-pro to recording to the final touches, which I think is cool because it's one of my favorite vocal performances. It's some of my favorite lyrics. Just everything about this track I feel like came together in a really nice, cool way. And so if I'm going to show somebody new something that I'm proud of, that I've been a part of, that I'm going to show them Split. I'm not the most musically inclined person either, so it makes it kind of like, you know, it's a testament to Chris's songwriting ability that he can make something that is traditionally difficult to perform sound really easy. Second Skin's about identity crisis and getting wrapped up in what people perceive you to be versus how you feel like you want to portray yourself, and then kind of getting lost in the middle there. It's about people who put their stock into treating themselves more like a brand or an image as opposed to just a person. When you feel like your entire life is in front of an audience, you start to lose touch with who you actually are because you can find yourself getting wrapped up in what other people think of you more than someone else might. So Second Skin is kind of my reminder to stay true to who I am and always find the center even when it's not very clear sometimes. A big part of me for this record personally was knowing when to kind of take a step back and let other people help and contribute ideas lyrically and vocally that I wouldn't have thought of. And so this is one of those times where Chris actually wrote the chorus for Second Skin. We were stumped on it for a while. We were sitting there trying to figure out what to do. Nothing really seemed to blend the right way. And I went over the ideas and the topics of the song with Chris, and he kind of thought about it for a little bit, and he just goes, all right, everyone leave the room. And so we all leave the room, and he goes in and tracks like a really rough take of the chorus melody. And we sat there, like, kind of jammed it for a minute, and we're like, yeah, this is perfect as is, let's go. And he's like, oh, now you have to sing it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's do it. But I feel like that's a really cool part of Second Skin, that it's an exercise for me to take other people's input and to like let the best idea win. How I Fall Apart is the oldest track on The Way It Ends. How I Fall Apart is roughly 3 years old at this point, the instrumental demo of it at least. And for whatever reason, it just took me a long time to know what I really wanted to do with the track, what we wanted to say and how we wanted to say it. And part of the reason that it came to light now is because a lot of necessary changes were made when we brought Ryan into the fold, Ryan Leitru, the producer of the record. One of those changes is the second verse, which actually is now one of my favorite parts of the album. It just hits you in the face with this unexpected, heavy part that for a much more kind of laid back emotional song you wouldn't expect. And I think it makes it super effective and a lot of fun. This is another track where Chris wrote the chorus for it. This is, he sent the instrumental demo a long time ago with the chorus already there. And this was the first time I had really heard one of his original vocal ideas. And I was stoked on it from day one. So I'm really happy with the chorus. And I love being able to write the verses and kind of fill in the gaps where he had already had the main idea in place. The last track of the album is called Better Days, and I can't think of a better way to end the album than with this particular track. So getting into Better Days, I think it sums up the story that we've put together throughout the entire album in a super meaningful way that leaves it open-ended for everybody's interpretation. When I think about Better Days, I think about the album cover that you see behind me. We have these two individuals falling into this vortex, and that is supposed to symbolize continuum, always spinning downward in a negative way, falling into negative habits and negative coping mechanisms that aren't fueling you as a person. So the overall goal of Better Days is to remind you that there's a way to get out, and a lot of it is just a choice of stepping over those adversities and stepping over those mental roadblocks to realize that there is a more positive side of life and that there is more than just spiraling into negativity. We do realize that for people struggling with mental illness and addiction, it's not that easy to just make a choice and to be this more positive person. And that's something that we're conscious of. But for those particular people, the best way to relate the same idea is that you have to start the conversation. And maybe that choice isn't to just flip the switch and be a positive person all of a sudden, but it's to make that choice to reach out and to get those feelings out there so that people can understand you better and maybe find a way to help you. That's always been music for me. That's always been my release. That's been my way of getting my thoughts and feelings and emotions out there in a way that people can kind of see and feel and hear and relate to. And I just hope that for other people, maybe it inspires them to kind of voice their story and their truth as well. So that's the end of our track by track of The Way It Ends. Real quick, I just want to give a shout out to a lot of the people who made this record possible. We couldn't do this without Sean Keith from SharpTone Records, Jackie Anderson from SharpTone Records, our management, Scott Lee and Josh Bulgarin. We couldn't do this without Ryan Leitru, Ricky Armelino, who were both there for the recording and the production of the record. We couldn't do this without Nolly, who mixed it, and Chris Crummett, who mastered the record. There was a lot of moving parts on this record, and that could be worrisome for a lot of projects, but just having a star-studded, awesome team to work with made it super seamless, and by the end we had a fantastic product that I hope everyone involved is proud of. The Way It Ends is out now through SharpTone Records. You can listen to it everywhere. We hope everybody's enjoying the record so far, and we want this to just be the start of the conversation. So feel free to reach out to us in any way that you can, and if you have any more questions, we'd be happy to answer it and keep the conversation going. Thanks everybody for watching. Take care.